Hello and good evening everyone. Hope you're ready for some more reading. I've got my therapy friends, and as you probably saw, I have the book. So shall we? Let's get comfy. Okay. If you remember, we're getting close to the end. That's okay, because I have another book in mind after this. Not as long, that next one, but I think it'll be a book. Let's put it that way, people. Right. Hope you saw the last video, because if you don't, then you're not going to know where we are in this book. But seriously though, people, if you get a chance, buy the book, okay? Or in fact, buy any book that's about something you want to learn about. If you can get it secondhand, even better. You know, save money. Anyway, let's get on with this, shall we? How to get the best from the help that you are offered. Okay, so let's suppose you have found a qualified therapist who you think you can work with and who is offering good quality CBT. There are things you can do to get the best out of therapy. This is important because not only do you want it to go well, but you want to get through it as quickly as possible. That's very true, you do. However, I would say avoid the trap, avoid the trap of doing it too quickly. Preparing for treatment. Prepare a brief timeline and history of your problems. Or problem, if it's just one. Make a very brief summary, possibly as a diagram, on when things started to be a problem, when they got worse. Note it on any major events in your life, such as marriage, death of a loved one, or anything else really that may fit the categories. It can also be helpful to summarise the main ways in which the problems impact on your life. Once therapy starts, if your therapy doesn't usually do this, however many will, ask if it is possible to record therapy so that you can go over it after the sessions. A good way to do this is to keep a notebook in which you write between 5 and 10 things that you learned from the session, and at the back make a note of things it will be helpful to clarify with the therapist when you next meet them. In general, writing things down can help either as notes for yourself or to hand to the therapist. You must also ask for things to read. Now this is very true because any good therapist will give you homework. Now it's not going to be like school homework where you get detention if you don't do it. In fact, the only person you'll be cheating this time is yourself. But you will want them to give you at least some reading to do outside of therapy. Because if they don't, then you're probably dealing with a bit of a lazy one. You know, just a theory of course. I mean, I doubt there are any actual therapists reading it, watching this. I mean, again, I suppose one day a therapist could react to one of my videos. Probably won't be this one though. Or if you are looking for stuff to react to, feel free to react to my stuff. I don't think it'll be exciting, but if you want to, you can. Just credit me, you know? And give a link to the original video, if you don't mind. Make sure you're on time and that you don't miss sessions. Now this is an important one, because if you miss sessions or if you turn late or if you miss it altogether, that's going to give the image that you aren't interested in being helped. That view is just a passing phase. It's that age-old adage of you need to help yourself first. Now, if you got these problems, that is going to be hard. But unfortunately, sometimes I know it's hard and life can get on top and we tend to guilt ourselves into doing nothing sometimes, but sometimes you just got to do the thing. You know? Sometimes you just got to do the thing, and yes, I know I spent most of my life not doing the thing, so I'm aware I'm a hypocrite when I say this, people, okay? So please don't let me know I'm a hypocrite, okay? Because I already know it. Lastly, be aware of things which you find difficult to discuss. Try to decide not to keep important secrets. This is of course once you're comfortable with your therapist. OCD likes secrets. Perhaps make a list of things you find difficult to discuss. Also writing or saying why it is difficult if you know why. For example, you may be embarrassed, or you may be afraid that saying things might make them come true because you fear that the therapist will think you are a bad person and so on. Now this is really important, okay? You can't, of course, everyone has secrets, but if it's related to what you feel is related, you've got to let it out. Okay, you've got to. It's like seeing a therapist. It's like seeing a regular doctor. Okay, you can't just go and say and not share stuff. Okay, if you're going for a particular reason, okay, you've got to share everything that's going on. It's like several years ago. Actually, no, this was about supposed to be almost 2 years now. I found a lump down below, and I had to go see several doctors to get it felt. I'll be honest with you, it was incredibly embarrassing because I'm really not good at getting naked in front of other people. I'm really not. I mean, I find it hard, which is probably one of the reasons I've not really had many relationships or been intimate with many people in my life, because I find it hard to get naked or, to show stuff. But when I went to doctors, I had to do it, because if I didn't, they would have simply dismissed me and said, well, what do you want us to do? And I will admit it was very hard, because you're kind of showing everything, when you get a lump down there. You got to cover things up, and doctor or nurse, they're both good, and it's feeling a lump. So it's not as if you need a specialist to feel for that. They got to feel it, and it's a weird feeling. It really is. Hopefully I don't have to go through that again. I hated it, if I'm honest with you. Making appointments, telling someone, yes, I found a lump. Then you got to go to them, you got to show them, you got to let them feel it. Then you got to go to a specialist who has to put weird gel on it and feel it themselves, and then they have to put the machine over it. I hope I don't have to go through that again. I probably will do though. Bound to, unfortunately. Oh, in case you're wondering, I do check regularly now. Actually, any men watching, men or women, check for lumps, alright? Just check anywhere, okay, that there could be an unsightly lump. Check it, okay? Just check it, okay? And if you find something, see someone now, alright? Don't ignore it. But preferably do it in the morning. If you do it at night, you won't be sleeping much like I did. Anyway, let's get back to the book, shall we? Now I've given you a bit too much information. Shared goals. Quite early in therapy, your therapist should discuss what the goals of therapy are and how these match with your longer term goals, which include what you want for yourself and your family in years to come, and what has to happen for these to come about. Many of the therapy goals can be linked to this. If you want to do a training course, first you have to be able to leave your house and feel comfortable going to other places. Guided discovery. Your therapist will want to ask you a lot of questions about the problem or problems. Some of these will be obvious questions about what life is like for you day to day. Some of these questions will be to gain a shared understanding where your knowledge about the problem is married with your therapist's knowledge of how obsessional problems work. As treatment progresses, your therapist will ask you questions that will help you to weave new information and ideas into your thinking, help you make the big changes you need to make to get rid of the problem. Remember, your therapist is probably something of an expert in anxiety, OCD and its treatment, but you are the expert in your life and the way OCD affects you. So in therapy, you need to work closely with your therapist for the kind of partnership of two experts, learning from each other about your problems and how best to tackle them. Questionnaires. Your therapist will give you questionnaires to complete quite regularly. Do these, and if appropriate, discuss them with the therapist. They are a good way of keeping track of progress, both in general terms by totaling the scores, and more specifically, your therapist will often keep an eye on specific items or the pattern of changes for clues as to what is happening. Homework. CBT therapists will almost always suggest homework. Told you they would. so that you can consolidate what you have learned between sessions. This might be reading, keeping records of specific events, behavioural experiments, where you gather new information about how your problem works by trying things out and recording the results. There are some key points that you should understand before you leave the session about homework, especially behavioural experiments. Often when the homework is set, these points are clear, but pay attention to make sure that you understand. 1. Why are you doing this? What do you hope to learn? 2. How will you do it? When will you do it? Try not to leave it to the day before your next session. And thirdly, how will you record results? It's worth thinking about, people. It really is. When you have your next session, try to make sure that you put the homework on the agenda so you can get the most out of understanding what you did and what it meant. People suffering from OCD tend to be perfectionistic. Make sure that you are doing the homework in a way that makes the most of what you can learn from it. Being perfectionist, I've never actually heard that word called perfectionistic. I've heard perfectionist, but never perfectionistic. Back to it. Being perfectionistic and worrying about whether you did the work correctly is a surefire way of missing the point. Again, this is best dealt with by making sure that there is a clear rationale for homework, always to be agreed between you and reviewed next session. If you feel overwhelmed at the prospect of any homework suggested by your therapist, they'll prefer that you say so and that you discuss what it is that concerns you. If you simply can't do it, again, tell your therapist so that they can help you find another way of achieving the same objective, which is, of course, to better understand and manage your problems. Other claims of special OCD treatment methods. Occasionally, you may also come across websites for individual therapists or private clinics that claim to provide a specialist treatment service that they may have developed differently from traditional cognitive behavioural therapy. It is worth remembering that the treatment of choice for OCD is cognitive behavioural therapy, the only psychological treatment shown to be effective and therefore the only talking treatment recommended by the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence. Based on a very careful review of the evidence, which is, before being issued to the professionals and public, open for general discussion by all those who think that their particular approach has been ignored or treated badly. It is also important not to allow yourself to be persuaded by these websites, many of which look highly professional and glossy with lots of testimonials from recovered sufferers. They are, however, selling a service and therefore not be providing independent reviews. Even respectable companies on the high street emphasise the positive feedback they receive and do not advertise criticisms. That's business 101, I think. Don't highlight criticism. I could be wrong. If you are in a business, let me know. You may also come across treatment methods written by people claiming to be ex-OCD and anxiety sufferers. Don't assume that just because someone is an ex-sufferer, they are qualified to be a therapist to treat other people. So always check the professional background and clinical training of the therapist/treatment method author. Many of these treatment method websites can also claim to be NHS approved. Of course, this NHS approved, of course, as you know, makes it very Anglo-centric in this case. But most countries will have equivalents or some regulatory body that will help with this. So if you're not in the UK, then you need to find out what these regulatory bodies are. Okay? Many of these treatment method websites and clinics also claim to be NHS approved. We have in the past seen examples of this where the author's own GP had recommended a treatment method to another client, which was then being used to support claims of NHS approved. Again, it is important to take these claims with a pinch of salt. Remember, if these services were in fact fully NHS approved, then they would be recommended by the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence in the treatment guidelines for OCD. Disclosing sensitive information. For treatment to work, it is important that you are open and honest with your therapist. No matter how strange or embarrassing your OCD may be, most therapists will have heard such stories before anyway, so it won't shock them, as you had perhaps imagined. Now, this is something actually worth remembering. No matter how weird or out there your problem may be, chances are they've heard it all before. They've probably even heard many more screwed up people than you have. Yes, I'm aware that sentence came out completely wrong, but you know what I mean. And my point sticks. So knock it off, alright? Yeah, I know you. Right. Of course, with some forms of OCD about harming or abusing, especially children, it is naturally something that you will be afraid to tell anyone. Saying not all health professionals have experienced these forms of OCD to be fully understanding, but please do not let this put you off seeking treatment. What we recommend is perhaps to start out by talking about other forms of OCD that you may have, and loosely touch on your harm OCD without going into specifics until such time as you feel you can trust your therapist. And your therapist is showing some understanding of the problems you are experiencing. Chances are when you start touching on the subject of harm, the therapist may well understand what you are referring to and will help you express your fears, making you feel much more relaxed. Should you have any problems expressing your OCD to your therapist, please do contact OCD UK, and they may be able to act as an independent intermediary for you. Again, people, as I said before, if you're not UK based, then find out what regulatory bodies you have in your country. Okay, because you may need them. Hopefully you don't. I mean, the chances are slim, but but it's not impossible. But fingers crossed for all of you that you don't need them, alright? Fingers crossed for you all. So what happens if therapy is not working? The therapeutic relationship plays a key factor in the success of a treatment. You and your therapist should be working and setting goals together and applying exercises as a team. However, even the most excellent of partnerships will sometimes slow down, and even hit a proverbial brick wall. In such situations, it is important that you talk to your therapist. Explain to them what you're feeling and thinking about the treatment progress. A good therapist should have spotted this in any case, either because it was obvious in sessions or because the questionnaires that you have completed show that all is not as well as it should be. Communication is vitally important for therapy to work. Situations where the treatment does slow down, talking to your therapist should help. New goals can be set and new exercises planned together. Together being the operative word. Beware the therapist that simply turns around and accuses you of not working hard enough. It is important to be honest with yourself, and sometimes we may need to push ourselves a little more. But invariably, if a therapist mentions a lack of investment on your part, then this is a sign that a new partnership may be needed. You know yourself if you are doing your best. If the answer is no, then of course you need to ask your therapist to support you in dealing with that. If, as is usually the case, the answer is that you are indeed doing your best, it might be that the therapist is not skilled enough, or even that the way of working and personal style does not match well with what you need. Seeking referral to someone else, usually with more specialist expertise, would be a helpful thing to discuss in a positive way. Although we always suggest talking problems through with your therapist first, if you really feel your therapy partnership has gone as far as it can, there's nothing wrong with searching for a new therapist. That is not the sign of failure. It may just be that a new approach is needed. Think of it like learning to drive. You don't always pass your test your first time. You may need to try a different driving school. If you don't pass first time, you try again. It needs to be again and again until such time as you're driving down the road to an OCD-free life. If you're still here, then you'll know this is the end coming up. It's been a good evening, productive evening I think. Now I know the ending of this book isn't going to be overly helpful to everyone, and not everyone's going to want to hear this, but this is stuff you need to know, people, okay? This is all great advice which will help you when finding a therapist, if you are looking for one, that is. So please think about everything that's been said tonight and in the previous videos I've mentioned. And also I do appreciate if you are still here and you have stuck through. I'll say now, thank you. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. And I know I'm part 28 or 9 or what now. So it's been a long ride. And despite the low viewing figures, I've noticed there are a few of you who always comment and always like the video. Okay. And for those of you who are still here, Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really do. Because I understand this is a long series of videos. But hopefully when we're at the end, there'll be one long playlist that will just accompany the whole thing. And as it stands, I'm not monetized, so you shouldn't get any ads on these videos. Because I've been going through my videos on my personal YouTube channel, which is what I'm doing there, you see. That there is me watching my videos on my personal channel where I watch stuff. The channel you're looking at now, James, is not used for watching YouTube. It's a different channel. Or a different account, I should say, so. But when I watch the videos on my personal channel, I get 0 adverts. So you should too. Although if I do get monetized, that may change, but I'll see what I can do. I'll make it so it's minimal ads. Because, you know, I don't want to. This ain't worse than sitting through something and suddenly, come down to this casino and waste all your money gambling. Have you tried vaping? Perhaps you'd like a VPN. An expensive one. Anyway, now that rant is done, I'm definitely going to say goodnight because, you know, it's the end of the day for me. I go to bed now. So until next time, I'm James. You've been you. And I sincerely hope you've been taking care of yourselves. No, really, I do. I really mean it. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye.